Good morning, everyone. My name is Letizia Magnani. I'm a journalist and I'm going to be the chairman of this conference, this meeting, a conference about innovation and business chain challenges in the field of carrot. As for carrot growing, all of this was started not a lot of years ago. I'd like to thank Maurizio Bacchi for organizing this conference and for having so many people here today. Before giving the floor to Maurizio Bacchi, I would like to welcome here all our guests. As I was saying, Cora Seeds was established in 2006, but it's a successful story, even though quite young. And the origin of everything is the seed, so this carrot seeds. And when I met Maurizio this morning, he told me, look at my shirt, that's written Cora seed on it. So as we all know, the seeds are the main point, and also innovation and research are very important for the carrot industry, but also for the food industry in Italy and in the world. And this is what Maurizio Bacchi will talk about in a few seconds. But I would like also to say hello to Jean de Visser, the breeder Carota Cora Seeds, and I've got a few questions for him later. Then I would like to welcome here also Matteo Mazzoni, Massimo Pavan, Matteo Mazzoni, head of sale of the Gruppo Mazzoni, and Massimo Pavan, the president of the Ispica Early Carrot Group. And then I would like to welcome here Rodolfo Occhipinti from Sata, Mario Schiano Lo Moriello, from ISMEA, the institute that provides services for the horticulture market. And I thank you all for being here. And I now give the floor to Maurizio Bacchi. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yes.
Cosa dire? Diciamo che l'anno scorso la Cora Seeds ha fatto
Last year, Cora Seeds celebrated her 18th birthday. So, as we were saying, it was established in December 2006, and me and my wife, who is sitting here and who holds 25% of the company, started this adventure. And very slowly we started growing onions at first. So we grew the first varieties of onions, and we reached both national and international markets, and we managed to work and sell our products in most of the countries in East Europe. And then we reached the USA, North Africa, and the East world in general. And in the meantime, we wanted also to enlarge our product portfolio, because in order to have partners and friends that distribute and sell your products, you need to give them a wide array of products. So we started working with fennels, with tomatoes, with watermelon. We are also a leader in growing medium, small-sized watermelon seedless and with seeds. So we worked also in the watermelon sector, then in basil, then in rocket sectors. And then last year, we had the opportunity to buy a research program quite important. Since we've been working with Jean de Visser for many years, well, he founded this research program, and we found an agreement in order to buy this project that was monitored and followed by Mr. de Visser, of course. And so we started this project together. a project that is for the European market, so European carrots, but also other kinds of carrots, mainly focused also on the American market. 60% of the program is focused on the American market, where there are other kinds of carrots more for snacks or, you know, different eating habits. Last week, I visited some of producers with about 20,000 hectares each, and we saw that also the snack carrots are performing well.
Senti Maurizio, in meno di 20 anni, prossimo anno festeggerete 20
In less than 20 years, you managed to grow considerably, and your sons are here, your wife is here, and you all work together. So you were telling me that the team makes the difference. So you are proud of the people working with you and of your family. Today, Cora Seeds can say that its turnover has increased by 30%, and this is a very important data. And also the fact that you work with China, the USA, so you're reaching international markets. And growing so much in such a little time, what did this mean for you and for your company? Well, Cora Seeds was an international project based on research since its very first beginning. And then, day by day, year by year, we started to grow, of course. In Italy, we've got more than 15 sale managers. We export our products in more than 40 countries. We opened an office in Oman in 2023. We opened Cora Seeds in Turkey in 2020. We're opening Cora Seeds in Belgium. We've got some offices in Russia because, you know, it's always good to have a headquarters also in Russia. We've got the United States, a very demanding market, and we've been working for more than 10 years in order to get that market with our onions. So it's a very demanding market. But with the varieties that we grow in Cesena, we managed to go to the USA. So the idea, the focus, and, you know, the idea to have something new and different is working, and the data are showing this. You were mentioning Cesena and Emilia-Romagna. What does it mean having a business and do business in this area and export everything at an international level? Well, Cesena is the hometown of very important companies producing seeds, not only for the national market, but for international companies. And in Cesena, we've got more than 10 companies producing seeds for international companies and businesses. What's missing is research, so working with genetics, creating varieties, creating innovation, testing it in different areas in the world and sell it, put it on the market. But our company manages to add research to this, you know, circle, to this loop. So we're adding research and complete, you know, the overall supply chain. So in an area well known as for the production, we provide also the added value of research. So today the focus is on carrots, of course. Carrots were very fashionable in the 90s, but nowadays people still love eating carrots. So Maurizio, please stay with us, of course. If you have questions at the end, or if we've got questions for you at the end, please stay here. So you mentioned research and genetics, so I think it's high time to give the floor to Jean de Visser, the breeder of Cora Seeds, and he was
that you are the carrot man, so
defined as the carrot man.
so hello, carrot man, and tell us about this project in particular and your job here. Io ho questo che a questo punto ripassiamo a lui, so you can drive your
The
speech.
presentation? Okay.
Yes, the presentation.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Good morning. Welcome all. Thank you very much for being here and being at the presentation on the carrots. Challenges in the world of carrot breeding. Yeah, challenges in carrot breeding. Our seeds for your success. Challenges in carrot breeding. Yeah, important is challenge us. Because breeding is nice, but we need to have the input from the growers, the customers. Otherwise, we make products that are not useful for you. So, once again, we can also and only grow successful varieties if you supply us with the right information. A little bit about the history of the Cora Seeds breeding program of the carrots. Mid-2024, Cora Seeds acquired the carrot breeding program of KW Vegetables. That was in the past the program of Pavan Seeds in the Netherlands. A relatively young breeding program of about 10 years. And breeding in carrots takes a long time because the cycle is normally 2 years. And in the second half of 2024, I supported the transition of the carrot program on behalf of KWS, and since the early this year as the carrot breeder in Cora Seeds. The steps in hybrid carrot breeding. On the basis of these steps, the 5 steps, yeah, you can also use it in multiple more steps, but this fitted best for me. In general, breeding important is collection of variability. That's the root of any breeding program. Second of all, the second step is development and selection of parental lines, the parents. Number 3 in this cycle is combinations among the selected parents. So you combine the parents to derive the experimental hybrids, and then you start selecting and testing of these experimental hybrids. And finally, seed production, release and commercialization of the new hybrids. So based on these steps, I would like to tell you a little bit more on the challenges. Collection of variability, the types. The program we acquired and we started in Pavan Seeds was initially based on Imperator types. You can see these long carrots for the American market. I'll come back to that in the next slide to show you what the types are. The Nantes types, the biggest program in the world, if you on the carrots. But so far we had the combinations with 50% of the Imperator genetics, and yeah, we really need to work on that for sure in the next couple of years. Chantenay, we acquired some parental lines in 2018 from a Korean company. That material is not yet fixed, but we're making good progress, and the same counts more or less for the Carota material. That's a typical market for Carota is a typical market for Asia. Here are some photos of the Imperator carrots. On the left, the cut and peel. Normally very long carrots, sometimes about 30-40 centimeters. They need to be very cylindrical, and as the name says, they will cut it and peel it in pieces of 2 inches. They're called baby carrots, and they pack it. But it's a little bit processed, but still all fresh. And the cello type, the carrots that are a little bit more pointed in the top and a little bit wider, a wider top and a little bit pointed tips. These are packed completely, and that's the basis of they pack the whole carrots in so-called cello. As I said, step 2. So first of all, you need to have, of course, the genetical variation as much as possible. The Nantes type, the development of pure Nantes type, that is the high priority right now to make the genetical basis a little bit bigger. For Chantonnay and Curoda, like I said, we have some genetics, but we need to work on the purity of the material, but we are getting there. A little bit about the development of the CMS. It's a complicated deal, so if you don't understand, I can really understand that. We need to develop, it's a long cycle, development of female of cytoplasmatic male sterility lines. It's an ingenious system of nature based on DNA and mitochondria in the cytoplasm of the cell, not in the cell nucleus, and it's blocking pollen. And the production of this inherits on the female side. For those you are not want to hear the full story, bottom line is it takes a lot of time before you derive that on the classical way. I'll come back to that later. And step 3, like I said, the combination of female lines and male parental lines to derive parental lines or experimental hybrids. Here you can see the photo left, the female line, and on the right-hand side, the male line. And step 4, selecting and testing of experimental hybrids. The best is to do the selections in the regions, preferably where most of the commercial products are taking place. For instance, Imperator types we test in the United States. They are selected for horticultural characteristics in California. For the fresh market Nantes, Chantonnay and Curoda type experimentals, we first screen them in Ferrara, close by, and the testing for resistance in field test, disease resistance via bioassays with molecular markers or in combination with these tests. And step 5 in the development of the hybrids is seed production, release, and commercialization of the new hybrids. The photo left, you see carrots are an insect-pollinated crop, and they need to, you need to separate the different genetics from each other, and we do that in cages. And the photo on the right-hand side is a production of hybrid carrot seeds in Washington, with in the boxes the bumblebees that are taking care of the pollination. You saw in the presentation some orange highlighted words that are the challenges on the road to a successful carrot breeding program. We still have a young breeding program. We need to develop more Nantes female lines to enlarge our germplasm. Therefore, the development of CMS lines, female lines, is important. Disease resistance was marked, and also molecular markers, meaning the challenges. Yeah, to learn the crop and the genetics quickly. So that means if we have a young program, we need to become as fast as possible an interesting company for you as growers on the carrot varieties. Speeding up the development of lacking parental lines in the Nantes female with the CMS system. And number 3 is anticipate timely on the ban of chemicals to protect the product. So disease resistance is becoming more and more important. And implement new, faster breeding techniques via marker technology, molecular marker technology. And we need to really quickly. So we make the step from the sprout as soon as possible to an adult So the carrots are in our genes. Development of Nantes CMS parental lines. Nowadays it's more and more easy to develop with new technologies faster the molecular with molecular technologies the female parental lines. To date, it looks like it will take some more time for molecular markers on powdery mildew and alternaria, but the Carotomics, that's the public genomic basis on breeding and the resources of carrots, is of great help. Here you see, for instance, what it means, powdery mildew in the field test in Eastern Washington in the United States. The photo on the left-hand side, you see the different plots. And on the photo on the right-hand side, a concentrated look at the field in the middle of the live photo with heavy powdery mildew. Leaf blight, Alternaria dauci, very important for Italy, for instance. We are in the near future working on the molecular markers for sure, but now we have a perfect field test in Ferrara on the one hand, and we are also using a lab test developed in Verdelab in Rimini. And on the left-hand side, you see the more susceptible, on the right-hand side, the more resistant genetics against Alternaria dauci. And we used, in the development of the test, we used the field test for the validation of the test. So that's working really well. Of course, we don't forget other important traits like nematodes of the genus Meladoginae. On the photo left, cavity spot, of course, and Alternaria radicina black rot. These are the photos from on the bottom. So once again, we need your help, so please challenge us. We are here, of course, these days at MacFruit, but also in the near future, we would be really happy to hear your input, because that's really of importance for our program and for the seeds of your success.
Thank you so much.
That's all, folks.
This is Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, my Bugs Bunny.
Thank you so much, Jan. And the summary of your speech is that also in Carrot Live, female is best that man.
Yeah, like in the whole world, females are most important, but on the other hand, also hard to understand.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Naturalmente Jan è disponibile poi anche a vostre domande se ce ne saranno.
Jan remains here available for your questions if you've got any at the end of this conference. So thank you so much, Jan, for your presence and for your speech and for being so clear. Now I'll give the floor to Matteo Mazzoni, talking about enhancing the territory and carrot heritage, because genetics research are important, but of course we need to enhance the carrot products and value carrots and this world. Cora Seeds, Maurizio was saying that is able to work vertically, and to value the heritage is also a very important aspect that we need to keep in mind. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Cora Seeds, for giving us the opportunity to talk about our company and our personal experience. We will have the opportunity to talk about the market later, but I will now describe my own experience. I take care of the market area of this group. I'm the third generation of my family, and here you will see some information about the group. We've been working in this sector for more than 65 years now. The company was established by my grandpa. We are integrated vertically in the supply chain, so we do research and development thanks to the CIV company. Then we've got some nursery plants, and then we've got the production area, where we produce both apples, fruits, kiwis, nectarines, and peaches in general, but also horticulture in the horticultural sector, such as, for example, the carrots, the topic of today's conference. And then we've got the storage and sale area. Carrots is for us a key product. We started working with carrots more than 30 years ago. We produce the majority of our products on a sandy soil, and we managed to produce for about 11 months out of 12. And we've got a production area of about 12 hectares. 200 hectares. 200 hectares that, of course, are nothing compared to the 20,000 hectares you were talking about earlier on. The production of carrots using sandy soil is a choice that we made because it makes the carrot production easier. And in the Ferrara area, we've got a very sandy soil. And we started producing there because especially my dad and my uncle started buying sandy soil when this was cheaper than today and then the other kinds of soil. Whereas today the price of this kind of soil has doubled and has multiplied a lot, 4 times actually. So we started with this soil and then we went on even though the price has increased. And we tried to explore new innovation. Meanwhile, we started with carrots that turned out to be one of the key products of our company. As for the challenges that we are currently facing and that the agricultural sector is currently facing, so as I was saying, I'll talk about my personal experience growing carrot on sandy soils. There are different aspects, different challenges. Of course, the salt in the soil is an important aspect. When there are droughts or when the climate conditions are different, of course, there are challenges in growing carrots in specific periods of the year. There are also some weeds, such as, for example, a kind of cipollino, of little onion, that is a weed that attacks our productions very easily. Then we've got nematodes, and Mr. Davis has already talked about them, and they attack carrot productions a lot. Even though we can manage to reduce their attacks, their presence using different techniques, but the climate change doesn't make things easier. So, and in general, climate change is one of the biggest challenges that we've got, because it's difficult to foresee the conditions. So we've got dry conditions when we should have wet conditions and vice versa. So this is a great challenge. Producers and growers need to grow and need to work despite all these challenges. So they fight against all these problems. These are the problems that we're facing today. In the past, we had other problems. So growers are used to fighting against challenges. But
adesso ho messo nella slide, ma ne è stato parlato
as you can see here on this slide, we only have 30%, 1/3 of the active principles available. And what we see is that they are cut, they are eliminated too fast. So then we don't know how to react to the fact that we can't use a specific active principle because they are eliminated, they are taken out of the market too quickly. So what we ask from an agricultural point of view, and Europe is following, is direction to soften, the management and the reduction of the use of these active substances past the products, in order for us to develop strategies and techniques to do without them.
Dal punto di vista di mercato,
As for the market,
mi sposto proprio nella fase di
so
vendita, quello che noi
during the
viviamo
sale
fondamentalmente
phase,
dipende
what
solo
we
da due mercati.
see
Primo
is
dei
the
due
presence of
sta
two
cominciando adesso
markets.
in
The
questo
first
mese
market
e durerà circa 2 mesi, che è il mercato
starts
di esportazione.
in May,
È un
more or less,
mercato
and it's
di
an export market,
grande,
and it lasts 2 months,
volumi
more or
molto
less.
ampi di raccolta
And it's a
di
market
mandato,
dealing
prodotto
with
che viene mandato
huge
principalmente
volumes, and it deals
Nord
with
Europa,
products
Nord-Est Europa.
sent to
Diversi paesi,
Northeast
penso che
Europe.
questo verrà visto anche dopo, sono
And I think this
tendenzialmente
this
producono e
will also
autoconsumano
be
nei momenti in cui c'è
described
mancanza
later.
di prodotto in
And
determinati paesi, noi
when
andiamo a supplire questa
there's a lack of
quindi abbiamo
product
dei
in
lavoratori
specific countries,
molto
we
semplici,
try
lavoriamo
to,
con tecniche
bridge
tonnellata, quindi
this
sacco 1000
lack.
tonnellata, oppure
And
sacco da 10
we
kg
work
o in
with
fusa.
big
Sono
bags,
lavorazioni rapide,
1-ton
volumi
bags,
alti,
or
però è un mercato molto breve e
in general
nel
big
momento in cui
quantities,
dovesse essere un
but it is
eccesso
a
di
short
prodotto in questi
market.
paesi
And
consumatori a cui
when there's an
vendiamo, quindi
excess of
all'esterno di Nord-Est
product
Europa,
in these countries in Northern Europe,
il volume in quel caso si
the
riduce. Quindi è un
volume, of
mercato
course,
abbastanza certo, ma
is
anche alquanto incerto.
reduced. So
Secondo
it
mercato
is
invece
a
che gestiamo
market that is
è
quite
quello
certain and sure,
principale che
but
noi
it can
operiamo tutto
have
l'anno,
its
è quello della
challenges too.
distribuzione
Then we've got
organizzata
the
italiana.
market for the
Possiamo
retailers,
quasi
so
visualizzarlo
the
come una linea costante, quindi un mercato
retail
costante,
sector, and
però è
this
un
is
mercato che
a
richiede molto
large-scale distribution
servizio
sector,
e
so
molto
it's a
diverso. Quindi anziché fare
constant
volumi
market,
importanti, quindi secchioni da
but
una tonnellata,
to
andiamo
which
dal
we do
sacco
not
da chilogrammo,
sell
dalla
huge
rinfusa e
volumes.
ai
We sell
prodotti
to the
principali richiesti,
retail
quindi
sector
vassoio,
smaller
vassoietti.
volumes and
I vassoi
little
sono
trays, for
passati nel
example, so
tempo
packaging,
da una grammatura media di
packaging
un
with
chilogrammo
little
anche ai polsi.
trails
Questo
from
aumenta
1 kilos and all over the
ulteriormente
years,
i
even
costi che ci sono
smaller
dietro, ha una
trays.
logica di
And
prezzo
of
e di servizio
course,
della distribuzione che è
there's a
perfettamente comprensibile, però
different
ecco,
cost,
aggiunge
but
diciamo, costi a quello che è la gestione del prodotto.
of course, managing these two different markets has different costs.
L'evoluzione, diciamo, che sta avendo sia la parte agricola che la
The
parte del
evolution
mercato
that both
richiede
the
una gestione
agriculture
proattiva
and the
molto
market
abbiamo
sectors
abbiamo
are
delle
dealing with
necessità magazzini in questa
implies
fase
some
storica.
changes and a good
Bisogna per di no
management
prende
of our
il prodotto deve
warehouses.
essere fatto ed è fatto in
So,
campagna, la qualità è
of
fatta in campagna,
course,
il
the
magazzino deve poter
quality
far
is
arrivare la carota
given
fresca
by
nel
the
migliore dei
product
modi.
grown on the field,
C'è una
but the
tendenza, ci saranno
storage
tendenze
and
di
the
investimenti che
warehouse
serviranno per
also play an
l'automazione da un
important
lato,
role.
questo
So
sia
we
dal
need
punto di
to
vista dell'aumento dei costi
invest
che stiamo avendo e
in
che abbiamo visto dopo il
automation, of
Covid
course,
sul personale,
and this can
oltretutto il
have an
personale,
impact
e lo stiamo
also
vedendo
on the
trasversalmente
staff
a
that
tutta
we
la
have on our
filiera,
workforce,
il personale qualificato è
because
difficile da
we
reperire.
need to have
Quindi
qualified
difficoltà
manpower,
di
even
reperimento
though
di
it is
personale qualificato,
difficult to
aumento dei
find
costi e
qualified
necessità di
personnel, qualified
supermercati,
manpower,
sia di certificazioni, questo non l'ho
given,
detto prima, ma noi
you
abbiamo tutte
know,
le
the high
certificazioni
costs
sia dei
that we have and the
supermercati, sia i
changing
vari
aspect of the
commercianti, quindi
market, and
processo, prodotti
given the different
che
markets
seguiamo
we're
tutte,
dealing with,
ma anche di qualità e
we need
servizi, quindi i
to
trasporti,
have,
i grammi che
as I
servono, il
was
prodotto che
saying,
serve e la qualità. Nel
quality also
futuro
not only in our
prevediamo quindi
crops
da
but
questo punto di
also
vista
in our storage
investimenti in
conditions and also
automazione.
in the market
Automazione, tecnologie in
and
magazzino che
sale
permettano di
sectors.
essere
So
presenti
as
al
I was
cliente in modo
saying,
migliore, meno costoso,
in our
una
warehouses
standardizzazione
and
delle
during the
fine linee,
storage process, we
da un
need
lato
to
standardizzazione, dall'altro comunque
have
mantenere la flessibilità che è richiesta dai
automation.
consumatori
We need
fondamentalmente.
to rely on
Ecco, ho fatto un quadro di quello
standardization
che è la
of
nostra
our
esperienza nel
tools.
settore dal
So
punto di
this
vista
is, you
agricolo
know, a
e dal punto di
framework of
vista
our
di
sector,
magazzino e di
both
vendita.
from an
Siamo
agricultural point
davanti
of
a delle
view,
sfide.
but also from a
Come sempre
storage
abbiamo
point of view.
fatto, e penso
As I
che
was
tutta la parte
saying, the
agricola e di
challenges
vendita l'ha
are
sempre
there.
fatto di reagire a queste sfide,
We
lo
have
faremo anche questa volta.
always reacted
Servono degli aiuti,
and
bisogna
we
che
have
uno
always
non
found
abbiamo degli
solutions in front of
svantaggi,
the
anche
challenges.
perché
However, we
gli
need
svantaggi agricoli
to
sui
be
fitofarmaci
helped,
talvolta
to
li
be
troviamo
supported,
in altri paesi
because
colleghi europei,
when,
magari noi non
you
possiamo trovare
know,
recipiativo
active
che viene usato in
substances are
Francia. Quindi
taken
questo
away, are taken
dà
off
un
from the
leggero
market,
svantaggio
but
sia di
they can be used in
reciprocità
other
da questo punto
countries,
di
such as, for
vista.
example, in France.
Serviranno
Well, this
investimenti
is
di
a
tecnologia
major
afinché
drawback for
contrastare
Italian
la
growers,
casistica
so we
di
do
questi anni,
need
quello
to
che sta
be
avvenendo in questi
supported
anni, il
and
cambiamento
helped.
climatico e il
And we
cambiamento
need to
delle
have
necessità
also
dei
tools in
consumatori.
order to deal with climate change, as I was saying. Thank you so much.
Grazie Matteo Mazzoni, hai toccato temi molto importanti.
Thank you, Matteo Mazzoni. You touched upon very interesting topics that we will continue to deal with during the day. But there are some aspects I would like to focus on. First of all, the idea of fashions. Because today, for example, purple carrots are really in fashion. So I'd like you to comment on that. And also another thing, from your point of view, what's the impact of climate change? Or what's its impact in the future? Because I think we're just at the beginning of this new change. In our territory, we saw this with the floods that we had in recent years. However, I think we're at the beginning of a great revolution from this point of view. So, as you said, in a very clear and effective way, innovation is key to deal with these issues. Just a couple of comments from your side. So the topic of fashion and the topic of climate change. As for fashion, I put an image, the image of a product that we dealt with in the past, the colorful carrots that didn't work at that period of time. But it was an interesting aspect that we could explore in the future. For now, we have focused on orange carrots. It's not the original color, to be honest, but we are focusing on those kinds of carrots, quite traditional. However, fashion is an important factor, and it is important to take into consideration this factor. As for climate change, I can say that this is inevitable, and we saw the first changes in the 1990s, and we started dealing with this problem at that time, and I think we will see the results of this in the near future. There are some products that are shifting from hotter countries to other countries, and the same goes for Italian regions, and this results in uncertainty in agriculture. So it's more difficult to produce and to sell, to have market forecast. So to work well, it is fundamental to take into consideration this aspect, and this is something that has a big impact in agriculture, but also in other sectors all over the world. Of course, thank you very much for your short answers. This is a complex topic, so thank you very much for that. Obviously, this is one of the topics that we will be talking about over the next few years, because agriculture is the only industry that is performed in open air. So there's no roof to cover agriculture, so we shouldn't forget that. And farmers and companies like Cora Seeds are the players that work knowing that they will have to implement techniques in the open air. So there is this important variability that you need and we need to take into consideration, especially in terms of climate change, even if there are people who are denying it. Then the valorization of the territory and of the varieties is a topic that will be dealt with by Massimo Pavan, president of the Consortium of Carota Novella di Ispica PGI. I would like him to tell us something more about this consortium and the certifications. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Cora Seed for the organization of this convention, of this event, which is extremely interesting. It's very nice to talk about carrots with you. It's the second most important vegetable product in Italy after tomato. So I will talk as the president of the consortium for the PGI Carota Novella di Ispica. Our consortium consists of 18 companies, including farmers and packers. Ispica, especially for those who don't know it, Ispica is in the southern eastern part of Sicily, close to Tunis. So this allowed us to seed in different seeds, and we are the first to arrive on European and Italian markets with Carota Novella, early carrots, we can say.
In Sicilia, appunto,
In
siamo
Sicily,
nati, le prime carote sono
we started producing the first carrots.
addirittura da uno svizzero, i primi semi delle carote.
They were brought from Switzerland, from a Swiss person, in the 1950s, 1955 in particular. Thanks to the climate and soil that this crop found, this product is quite peculiar now. It's particularly sweet and tasty to eat, which led us to establish the consortium. And at first, we were quite happy and calm because we didn't have many competitors. We were the first to arrive in Europe with this kind of carrots. But then, with refrigeration systems that were created, we experienced some problems in terms of the characteristics of the carrot. We were not standing out anymore. So producers in Sicily decided to get organized and try and do something different. We wanted to stand out on the market, and it took us 11 years, actually, to obtain PGI certification or label. We started in 2011 with 4,000 quintals of certified products. Last year, it was 40,000 quintals of certified products. So what's our target market? The main one is the Italian market. And why is that? Because PGI, the PGI label is well known in Italy. We have more than 250, almost 300 products certified with this label, whereas abroad, unfortunately, this label is not so well known. That's why we have difficulties in expanding abroad, because we would need consumers to be more aware of the importance of PGI products, and in particular carrots that have this kind of label. We would like to improve the situation, and we hope that in the future it will get better. So the only way to valorize our territory and our work, we would like to offer consumers a superior quality product. We receive a lot of positive feedbacks from our consumers that compliment us on the taste of this particular carrot that we offer them, because very often our competitors are carrots that were stored in refrigerated chambers, and they are kept in the fields or delivered to consumers later on. This year we had we imported a lot of foreign carrots in Italy. I was talking about this with Matteo earlier on. So far in Germany, Holland, and in Northern Europe in general, so far they have eaten carrots that were ripe in September, October, and these carrots were left inside these refrigeration units. So thanks to the quality of our carrots, we were able to save ourselves from a system that was crushing us and stand out as an excellence of Italy. We start harvesting on the 1st of February and we finish on the 15th of June. So 40,000 quintals of carrots in this period of time is quite a lot. We're not talking about the 20,000 hectares we talked about earlier in the United States, but it's not that much. But it's not that little. But let's not talk about these numbers anymore, because it's a shocking figure. But 40,000 quintals of certified products sold in the large-scale distribution system in Italy in 4 months is a good result, I believe, exceptional result. And the presence of beta-carotene in our products is an important factor. And there's also other important components like falcarinol. So this makes it a very healthy food to be rightfully included among the so-called healthcare foods. So the goal of the consortium is to protect and inform consumers. So therefore, it would be good if the ministry provided more effective tools to carry out these functions even better, because only with the resources of our producers in 4 months of work, we can't do much, but we are making efforts and we're working on it. So we should have institutional communication campaigns from the ministry. It would be important to reach Italian and foreign consumers to open up new channels, also abroad, so that they can be more aware of the value and importance of the EU labels. That's what we're asking the ministry. That's what our institutions should provide, because I believe that if we are able to raise awareness of the importance of the PGI label, the benefits will be great for many Italian products. Italy is the first producer of PDO and PGI products in the world.
I punti debolezza della carota non ce ne sono allora.
So maybe you will think that there are no problems or no flaws in carrots, but that's not true. If the price on the market increases, we start importing carrots from other countries, unfortunately.
Non è che vogliamo a tutti i costi fare solo le prime donne, però chiederemo la reciprocità.
We need reciprocity and the same conditions. So if I produce carrots, as Mr. Mazzoni was saying, with a certain number of molecules, 30% of molecules when compared to the past, even other countries, to be able to export carrots in Europe and not only in Italy, they should produce carrots with the same system that we use, because otherwise it's like having different weapons if we're fighting a war for carrots. So our mission is having more controls at the ports of entry. And also we need to focus on the traceability of these products. We need to control that rules are complied with, because otherwise farmers are crushed. In this way, we would guarantee safety for final or end consumers as well, because they have the guarantee of buying Italian products. The increase in consumption of PGI carrots, apart from the quality of the product, is due to the guarantee of buying Italian products, and this is very important.
E poi ricordiamoci che portando avanti anche il nome di Ispica,
promoting the name of Ispica also means enhancing the territory as a whole, because we also have a responsibility in this. PGI means geographic indication, protected geographic indication. So we're talking about Bacchino, tomatoes, carrots, etc. In certain areas, we have these particular products. So it is important to reward the area that gave us the ability to produce these kinds of carrots. So It can be beneficial not only for agriculture, but also for the tourism sector. The numbers speak for themselves, the process is underway, and we can only be proud of it. So our goal is to continue to bring the quality and healthiness of our product to the tables of Italian consumers. Thank you very much.
Massimo, grazie.
Thank you very much, Massimo. You mentioned very important topics, and one of them is very important to me. In the past, I worked for a period of time with Mr. De Castro when he was president of Colivite Association. So I dealt with these topics. Well, he is a very good friend of mine, and he is brilliant because he knows everything. He's a guru for me. Absolutely, yes. I must say that he worked really well in that function and also at the ministry where he used to work and in Europe as well. So the topic of certifications is fundamental, as you said, both to enhance the territory but also to give profits to producers and farmers. That's our goal. And obviously consumers will have to be more and more aware of the importance of these labels. So Massimo, just a couple of questions for you. First of all, the topic of quality and the perception of quality. You've already mentioned this in your speech. Is there an issue based on the perception of quality? Because it's true that we could do more about it. And then the other question is, what were the answers of the minister about this? Well, the topic of quality is pivotal for us because you can't you can't have a fraud towards the consumers. It is important to have a label for these carrots, and there are some production specifications to comply with. It's like our Bible. Each consortium has to comply with a series of rules and steps, and it's compulsory. So we are forced to have taste tests actually on our carrots, because we need to understand and verify whether our products are in line with the guidelines. So consumers have the guarantee of having or of buying and eating high quality products. Thanks to Cora Seed and other seed companies, we are able to develop, also thanks to Sata. They are our partners for quality controls, because each consortium needs to be verified and checked on, and also guided sometimes. We carry out a lot of tests every year on the different kinds of seeds to identify the best type or the best varieties year after year in order to get improved quality in carrots. That is why we need to partner up with seed companies to obtain better products for our consumers. Then the answers of the minister, well, he always says yes. Obviously, thank you very much. Earlier, Mr. Mazzoni was saying that quality is obtained in the field, but starting from the seeds, of course, so let's not forget that. Of course, if we have beautiful fields, beautiful soil, but if we don't have the right seeds, we will not get the perfect varieties. So seeds are more important than the minister. Of course they are. I've learned two things. Female lines are better than the other one, and the seeds are more important than ministers. So this is the message from today's session. Massimo, did you want to add anything? Okay, no. Thank you. Thank you very much. Then you introduced Rodolfo Occhipinti, who will talk about the agronomic challenges for the future of carrots cultivation. Rodolfo, so the word future has emerged this morning quite a lot, so the floor is yours.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you, Cora Seeds, for inviting us to this meeting, to this conference, and talk about carrots. Carrots is a very important crop. We've been working with carrots for more than 40 years now, all over Italy, from the north to the south of Italy. Carrot is an important product because if we all open our fridges, we will all find carrots in them. So this means that it's a very important and common product. What will we talk about today? We will talk about the challenges for the future of the carrot, but also for the future of all the horticulture sector. Sata is a counseling company working in Italy, and different experts in the field work in Sata. So we've got agronomists, technicians, experts working with field trials, experts that take care of the sale of the products, colleagues that carry out auditors, and then colleagues that promote the products. So we take care of the whole supply chain. So we will talk about the carrot production areas in Italy. So earlier on we were saying that the Italian production is little. Well, I'll show you that worldwide, yes, we are very little. In Europe, we are not so little, but we've got a specific feature. The carrot supply chain can be defined as itinerant, meaning that we've got just a few key players, actually key operators. If we count the number of producers and packers, we only have 100 of them, but they work all over Italy because the geographical features of Italy allows us to grow carrots in Italy all over the years. And as it was said before, climate change has changed the area. So if 20 years ago some areas in Italy could allow us to produce for a longer period, nowadays these areas have a shorter production, whereas areas where the production was shorter in the past now have a longer period of production.
Siamo circa 65, abbiamo 5 sedi su tutto il territorio nazionale, al nord, al centro e al sud. Una sede l'abbiamo in Fucino,
5 headquarters in Italy.
Che insieme alla Carota Novella di Ispica, i GP, abbiamo anche
we deal with different kinds of carrots, and the carrots that we produce are carrots that never meet. When we've got the Ispica carrot, we produce that carrot, we don't produce the other carrot, whereas when we produce the other carrot, the Ispica carrot isn't produced anymore. So there's, this match in production that is very useful.
Come vi dicevo, quest'anno compirà 40 anni.
This year, Sata will celebrate 40 years. It was established in 1986. And here you can see the development of the company. And we can say that the carrot was the main product for Sata. It was the product that allowed Sata to grow considerably. So actually Sata is a group. We've got Sata Holding Group. And as I was saying, there's a part of people working as agronomists, and then we've got an analysis lab that gives us the opportunity to analyze the product also as for its organoleptic features. We were talking about beta-carotene earlier on, but the guidelines, the policy of Ispica carrots gives parameters that need to be followed and monitored also as for carbohydrates and beta-carotenes.
Abbiamo anche delle partecipazioni in una società di agricoltura di precisione.
We have some shares in Rigolus, a precision agricultural company. And this is important. I want to mention this because integrating, combining all these different services is what we need if we want to win the challenges of the future.
Come siamo messi noi a livello
As I was saying,
con la coltivazione della carota? Dai dati Istat si parla circa di
statistical data that we got, we can say that we've got about 10,000 hectares in 2023 of carrots. So here we are talking about 10,000 hectares in Italy in total, compared with the 20,000 hectares that we were talking about earlier on in the US. So carrot is produced all over Italy in different periods, as you can see on the slide. And in the table that you can see on the right, the production areas starting from the north, Veneto and Emilia-Romagna. Then we've got Lazio, Fucino, then we've got Sicily, Sicilia, and then Puglia and Sardinia, are characterized by the fact that they produce carrots in different periods. So here in orange, you see the harvesting periods, in green you see the planting periods, and as you can see, climate change has also affected this trend, because this is the standard situation. But when we've got colder years, the situation can change compared with hotter years, of course. And also, market conditions change accordingly. There can be some periods in which we do not have products to sell, and so the prices change accordingly as well. If we look at the worldwide situation, we see that China is the main producer. China and the US are the main producers, but Italy is, however, well positioned. It ranks first after these countries. It's also important to highlight and to keep in mind that within the carrot production, there are different lines of production. It is true, for example, that Poland is one of the most important producers, but they sell a different kind of carrots compared with Italian carrots. So Italy, if we take into consideration the world, has just a tiny production, of course.
Bene. Quali sono le problematiche della carota e le sfide del futuro? Come poco fa si diceva, una è quella a livello della difesa fitosanitaria. Ci sono pochi prodotti, poche sostanze attive registrate e di anno in anno queste vengono ridimensionate, di cui anche, come vedremo, alcune sostanze attive importantissime stanno per essere limitate, tolte,
and some of them are really important and either have already been eliminated or will be eliminated in the future, and this is very important for us. We need to keep it in mind. Then we've got soil fatigue, climate change, drought, all aspects that we need to tackle. And how can we do that? By having
una
and
delle
by
cose fondamentali, una delle sfide
acquiring
fondamentali
more
dei prossimi
technical
anni è far
skills.
crescere competenze
So we
tecniche
need
dei
to
tecnici che operano
acquire
nella
greater
filiera.
technical skills. This is key for us.
Come vi dicevo, le sostanze attive si stanno riducendo.
As I was
Questa è
saying, the number of
la
active
linea
substances
disciplinare e di
is
difesa
reducing. Here
nazionale
you see the list
per la
of
carota.
active
Poi sapete
substances from the
benissimo che
National
ogni regione
Integrated,
d'Italia lo declina e
Integrated
fa
Pest
delle
Management
piccole
Guidelines
integrazioni o
2025.
correzioni, però come si vede
And
le
as you
sostanze
can
attive a
see, the
disposizione
active
sono veramente
substances
poche, no?
available are just a few.
E qui poco fa si parlava di genetica,
We were talking
sicuramente
about
qua la
genetics earlier
genetica
on,
può aiutare le
and here
aziende. Sappiamo che
genetics
ci sono
can
alcune
help our company.
malattie
We know that some
chiave della carota,
diseases
l'alternaria, ecco
are
qui
key,
magari la
alternaria, for
genetica può
example, and
aiutare nel
genetics
creare
can
delle
play
varietà
a role
tolleranti
in
alla malattia,
creating
l'oidio,
alternaria resistant
che ultimamente
varieties.
con i cambiamenti
Mildew
climatici
is
più
another
operiamo in ambiente
disease.
siccitoso e più l'oidio
When we've
si
got
sviluppa. Ci sono delle
drought or
condizioni
very dry
preponderanti a che l'oidio
conditions,
crea problemi.
mildew and powdery
Ma
mildew can affect
altre
our crops
problematiche importanti
even
sono quelle dei
more.
nematodi, come si diceva poco fa.
But then
Non
there
abbiamo,
are
abbiamo
other
pochissime armi per i nematodi e soprattutto
diseases,
negli
such as, for
areali
example,
dove
nematodes,
viene
and we
fatta
do
poca
not have the
rotazione, perché
weapons
come
to
vi
fight
dicevo
against them,
la carota
especially
è
when we
presente
do
su
not
tutto il
have
territorio
enough
nazionale,
crop
ogni areale
rotation.
ha le proprie
Because,
peculiarità.
as
Ci
I
sono
was
degli areali
saying,
dove
we've
viene
got
fatta
areas
carota di
in
continuo
Italy where we
e dove lì
produce carrots
giustamente le armi stanno
12
venendo meno.
months
E quindi lì soprattutto nematodi
out of
un po'
12.
meno gliela
So we do
perdi
not
per la
have any
carota,
crop rotations,
però
and this
diventano un
is
problema.
a
E come
problem.
vedete
This
le
can
sostanze
be a
attive
problem.
presenti
So
sono
as you can
poche.
see from this table, we do not have
Un'altra
enough
molecola che
or a
andremo a
lot
perdere
active
fine
substances.
2020,
Another molecule
2025
that
è il metribuzin,
we
un
will not be able to use anymore at the
diserbante
end of the
importantissimo per la
2025
carota.
is
Questo qui non
metribuzin,
potrà
a
più
very
essere utilizzato.
important
Quindi da un lato noi perdiamo
pesticide.
armi
So we are
importanti,
losing
dall'altro,
weapons
come
to
si
fight
diceva,
against
alcune
diseases,
avversità incominciano a
but on the
presentarsi.
other
Il
hand,
ciperus,
we're also
una
having
delle
new
infestanti più problematiche che
diseases,
un po' sta
new
creando problemi un po' in tutta Italia,
adversities
un po' più al centro, un po' al nord, ancora in Sicilia un po'
that
meno,
are
però
affecting
conoscendo il
Italy,
soggetto,
both
io
from
lo sto incontrando
north to
molto anche in
south of
Calabria, su
Italy.
orticolture, è una pianta che comunque si
Such as,
sviluppa
for
in modo
example,
molto
weeds
velocemente.
and new
Quindi
kind of
qui
weeds that can
dovremmo
affect
incominciare a fare
our
dei
crops. So we
ragionamenti,
need to
semine,
carry
post
out
semine,
more
vedere, fare dei
studies and
test
find
con quello che ci
solutions and
rimane
strategies
come
and tests in order to
la problematica è
tackle the
veramente
situation,
seria da
find
tenere
the right
attenzione.
products and weeding products,
Come vi dicevo poco fa, le
herbicides.
avversità, ci sono
As I
alcune
was telling you,
avversità che si
there
conoscono per
are
la
some
carota
diseases
ed
that are
altre che in
well
particolari
known
areali
and
stanno
others
incominciando a
that
creare problemi, a venire fuori.
are quite new.
Ne segnalo una per la Sicilia, i
In
collemboli.
Sicily, for
I collemboli che
example,
negli ultimi anni,
we've
probabilmente
got
per il fatto che magari
cotton
ci sono
balls,
meno armi a livello di interventi in
new
presemina
pests
con
that we
trattamenti
found in
insetticidi,
Sicily, and we need
incominciano
to
a creare
find the
problemi in
right
areali dove ci sono
herbicides and
presenze di
insecticides
alta
to
umidità,
fight
di
against them.
stagni idrici
And
e soprattutto nella fase di
these
semina,
pests can be
germinazione
found
delle
in
piante,
specific
lì
cotton balls
si
in
sono
specific
presentati veramente
areas.
attacchi seri di
But can
collemboli.
attack
Quindi
our
questo ha
crops
portato a
very
riseminare
seriously.
il terreno, ma
Collembola, so
soprattutto ritardi nei calendari,
springtails,
perché se io
and
semino a settembre,
you
una
know,
semina di
if you
settembre in
plant
Sicilia mi
in
porta a
September, you
raccogliere
should
il
have
prodotto fine
the
febbraio.
harvest at the
Se
end of
io
February, more or
ritardo,
less.
da un
But
lato
if you
vado
delay
lungo,
the
ma poi c'è anche il
planting,
problema
then the harvest
del
will take
seme.
place
Cioè,
later. But
la
also
filiera della
this
carota
affects
non è
the
la filiera del
seeds
pomodoro, ci
because
sono
a
poche
carrot
varietà
supply chain is
disponibili,
different from, for
poche ditte
example,
sementiere che
tomato supply
investono
chains.
sulla
We
carota
have just a few
e
varieties.
quindi puoi
We have
correre il
just a
rischio
few
che
companies
non ti
investing
trovi il
in
seme a
carrots.
disposizione
So
per
if
poter rifare la
it
semina.
can also
Quindi
happen
sono
that you don't have the
problematiche
seeds
importanti.
available to
Un'altra
plant new seeds in
problematica
different
è
periods.
quella delle orobanche. L'orobanche in alcuni areali è diventato
Then
un
we've
problema
got
serio.
another
Quindi anche qui
pest
riduzione
that is
dei
called
diserbanti, il
orobanchi
linulon che fino a qualche anno
in
fa
different
ci
areas.
dava una grandissima mano sulla difesa
So
delle infestanti,
we've
quindi
got
viene via il
new
linulon,
pests
importantissimo,
that
diserbante.
we
Toglieremo il
need to
metribuzin, probabilmente
fight
noi faremo
against.
delle nuove conoscenze, si ripresenteranno delle
Orobanche, for
conoscenze,
example,
no?
as I was
E quindi che
saying,
dovremmo
is
gestire.
another, also called and known
Nematodi
as
l'abbiamo
a broom
detto,
rape, is
citrus,
another
e
pest
quindi
that we
queste
need
sono
to
le
fight.
problematiche un po' su cui
So this is the
dovremmo
overview that I wanted to give you.
quindi difesa, prodotti
So,
fitosanitari, residui residui.
pest
un altro
management
limite
and the active
della coltivazione
substances
della
that
carota, che appunto
we
che comunque è
have.
una filiera attenzionata molto dalla grande distribuzione
We
organizzata,
also
quindi è
have
una filiera veramente controllata.
say carrot
Quasi tutte le
supply
insegne
chain is very
italiane,
controlled,
ma anche le
monitored,
insegne europee
also by the
hanno sviluppato
large
delle linee di
distribution.
prodotto anche a proprio
So
marchio che
many
veramente
companies
vengono
have developed
sotto
their
controllo.
own brands
Noi come Sata, come vi
that
dicevo,
are
abbiamo anche
carefully
un
monitored.
laboratorio Cadir Lab,
As
quindi
I was
facciamo le
saying, we've
analisi
got
per farvi vedere
an
anche negli ultimi
analysis
5 anni
lab,
quali
Kadir
sono le
Lab,
sostanze attive che maggiormente hanno
which
creato problemi.
allows us
Abbiamo
to carry
quelle che
out
vedete rosso
analysis,
sono
and
delle sostanze attive o che
we
sono
can
state revocate
thus
negli anni
know
o
which
che magari per uso
substances
pregresso
can be
ogni tanto
helpful
vengono
and which
riscontrate.
substances cannot
Fino a
be
qualche anno fa
helpful.
poteva
So
essere utilizzato il clorpirifos, ora non si può utilizzare più.
up to a
Come
few
vedete,
years ago,
i
we could
fungicidi la
use,
fanno
for
da
example,
padrone, abbiamo anche i
substances that we can't
diserbanti
use it
e ci sono i
anymore.
clororganici
And we
che
also
pur
have
se gli agricoltori non li
chloro-organic
utilizzano,
products
periodicamente
that
vengono riscontrati. Per
are
clororganici
periodically
intendiamo
found
Aldrin,
in our
Dieldrin,
crops.
DDT,
Aldrin,
tutti i prodotti usati
DDT, all
dal
products
dopoguerra in
that are
poi,
used
che abbiamo visto che
after
la
the Second
carota
World
è una
War,
coltura
that have been
che
using
accumula
after the Second
questo
World
tipo di
War,
prodotti e
and
quindi se
that
viene
can
coltivata
be found actually in
in
carrots. So if
terreni
carrots
dove è
are
stato fatto
grown
magari
in
40 anni
soils
fa, 50
where
anni fa,
40-50 years
dei
ago
trattamenti a base di
treatment
clororganici,
based
si trova
on
il residuo.
chloro-organic
Quindi è una di
products, well,
quelle,
we can
difatti
find
molte
the
aziende
residue in
prima
our
di fare le
carrots.
semine fanno proprio
So
una
before
ricerca per
planting
vedere se
carrots, many
c'è la presenza
companies carry out
di questi
research in order
clororganici
to
oppure no.
find if these chloro-organic
Quindi, come vi
elements
dicevo,
are
una
present in the
filiera
soils.
particolarmente
So
attenzionata
as I was saying,
rispetto
this
di
is a very well
disciplinari nazionali e
monitored
regionali,
supply chain.
richieste aggiuntive da parte della GDO in numero di sostanze
So
attive e in
we can
percentuale
say
degli
that the
LMR sulle
number
sostanze
of
attive. Parliamo del
active
30% in
substances
meno,
is
di 4 principi
reducing
attivi, di 3
and
principi
by
attivi, di calcoli
30%.
aggiuntivi quando va uno a
And
lavorare con le
in
filiere
general, the
estere,
large distribution
di
requests are the
certificazioni,
following.
Global
They
Gap,
want
IFS,
certified
LEAF,
products, a
quindi
Global
è
Gap,
una filiera
Grasp
che
and Spring, and
comunque è
Life
molto
certifications.
attenzionata,
So
residuo
it's a
zero,
supply chain
glifosate
that
free,
it is very well
eccetera, eccetera.
monitored.
Quindi
So
questo
also
comunque
dairy
sta
residue
a significare
productions. So,
che è una
and this
filiera
means
importante,
that
una
it's an
filiera di
important
interesse.
supply
Quindi
chain.
se da
It's
un lato
a supply
le
chain
ditte
that
degli
sparks interest,
agrofarmaci
of
ritengono la
course.
carota una coltura
So
minore,
if
quindi
on the one hand
essendo
carrot
minore
crops
come
are
superfici
considered
ci
as,
sono anche
you know,
investimenti minori per la registrazione dei prodotti,
a less
comunque
value
dal punto di vista del
crop,
consumatore è
from
una
a
filiera
consumer
importante.
point of view, we can see that actually this is not the case because it's a
Come
very
vi dicevo,
important product.
stanchezza dei suoli perché? Perché
Then
un
soil
po' in tutta
fatigue, I
Italia
was
i
mentioning
terreni
it.
destinati a
And
carota
why soil
non sono
fatigue?
poi
Because all
tantissimi,
over Italy we
vengono
do not have
gestiti,
so
messi
many
in rotazione,
carrot
ma
orchards.
comunque poi tante
And
volte ci si
very
rientra
often
molto
we've got
spesso e
poor
quindi questo,
rotations,
non
as I was
potendo fare le
saying.
classiche
So
rotazioni
since we can't
ampie
have
che si
the
facevano una volta,
classic
noi
traditional
andiamo ad
big
accumulare delle
rotations that we used to
problematiche,
have in the
nematodi,
past,
lateridi,
this can
sclerotinia,
lead
e
to
tutte queste
problems
cose
such
che
as,
poi
for
comunque
example,
bisogna
the
farci i conti,
accumulation of
no? E
pests,
quindi, come
diseases,
dicevo
and
poco
weed
fa, da un lato abbiamo
selection.
meno prodotti
So on the one hand, we
autorizzati,
have
dall'altro
fewer
lato ci troviamo
authorized products,
comunque
and on
a
the other
dover
hand, we have to
lavorare sempre,
work
quasi sempre sugli stessi suoli che magari mettiamo
on the same
in
soils
rotazione.
that we put that with a poor rotation
Come si parlava poco fa dei cambiamenti
system.
climatici, quindi
Climate
cambiando il
change,
clima,
we were
cambia il
mentioning this
calendario
earlier
di
on as well.
coltivazione,
Climate
cambiano i
change
calendari di
changes
approvvigionamento e
the
le dinamiche
production
di
calendar,
mercato
the
di una
supply
filiera
calendar, and
itinerante,
so all the
strutturata un po'
characteristics of a market
in tutta
that
Italia, ci sono degli
involves
anni che magari ci sono delle
Italy as
criticità,
a whole
degli anni in cui queste criticità sono
can
minori,
actually
ma
translate
comunque
into
è una
problems.
delle
Sometimes we've got
problematiche
fewer problems, sometimes we've
importantissime.
got more problems,
E
but
quindi
climate
tante volte
change
magari
is an
la
issue.
Sicilia che storicamente arriva in produzione
So let's
per
think of
febbraio,
Italy, for
magari
example.
va un po'
Usually the
più
production
lunga,
starts in
inizia a
February,
marzo,
but
si va
because
così
of
poi ad
the
accavallare
climate
con
change,
altri
sometimes production can start in
periodi e
March.
territori e quindi
And,
i prezzi poi fanno la fine che fanno.
And so the prices change accordingly.
Come vi dicevo, l'altro aspetto, cui se ne parlava anche oggi, è quello legato alla siccità, quindi alle diminuzioni disponibilità idrica di acqua. L'anno scorso è
less
stato un anno veramente
irrigation
orribile per
and
il Sud
water
Italia. 2 anni fa
availability
per
is
il Nord
also
Italia sono stati
an
gli stessi
important
problemi.
issue. 2
La
years
carota
ago,
mediamente
we had a
necessita da
terrible drought.
350 a
Carrots
500
need
mm di acqua, che
about
corrispondono
500
da
millimeters of
circa
water, and
da
this
3.500 e 5.000 metri cubi di acqua, ma
means
più che
about
la quantità di acqua,
5,000
questo è
cubic
importante
meters of
nella
water.
distribuzione nei periodi più
But water
importanti.
is
Quindi
important.
sicuramente alcuni areali si sono attrezzati e già lavorano con
It is always
irrigazione,
important
diciamo,
because,
a
as I
bassi
was
volumi,
saying, we
microsprinkler,
produce carrots all over the
altri
year in
invece
different
dove
areas.
magari per fortuna loro negli anni hanno avuto disponibilità di acqua,
The
ancora magari
irrigation
lavorano
systems
con i
have
rotoloni,
changed,
qualcuno
of
magari
course.
con
In general, we
l'irrigazione per
have
aspersione. Comunque quello che è sicuro è che
we have
negli anni l'acqua è diventato un
sprinkler
problema,
irrigation or
soprattutto
micro
nelle
sprinkler
fasi
irrigation.
iniziali di
Sometimes we
semina.
have
Sempre
slide and
più
drip
le
irrigations,
aziende
but we
seminano,
need
l'acqua
to
non arriva,
change
bisogna
our irrigation
irrigare e uno
systems
dei gap è proprio
according to
questo
the
qui.
water
Nella fase
availability
iniziale
that we
bisogna
have.
dare l'acqua,
So
l'acqua deve
we
arrivare
need to have
perché
water,
i semi devono
especially at the
germinare
beginning,
e
because
quindi un po'
seeds need
la,
to sprout, of course.
diciamo, la diffidenza
And
di non
so
iniziare con l'irrigazione per manichetta che magari in altri areali dell'Asia minore
this
un po' viene
implies
fatta. Ecco,
also
questo aspetto potrebbe essere sicuramente una tecnica
starting
da
thinking
attenzionare.
about
Le fasi in
drip
cui
irrigation
fondamentali
systems
per
that are
cui l'acqua
used
arriva alla
in
pianta
Asia,
sono
for
la fase della
example, and
semina,
that
la
are
fase dello
used
sviluppo
less
del
here
fittone e
in
della
Italy, but
maturazione. Molte
maybe
volte
they
in
can
questi
be the right
momenti noi non
irrigation
abbiamo
systems
acqua, quindi
when
bisogna
we do not
intervenire
have
con
enough
l'irrigazione
water.
quando
So
questa c'è.
irrigation plays a crucial
Però
role when we
sappiamo
do not
che
have water.
se io devo
But we
irrigare devo
know
attaccare il
that if
motore,
we
devo
need
pagare
to
l'Enel e
irrigate,
quindi
then
i
we need
costi
to
aumentano
pay
sempre
for
di più.
the electricity, so the costs increase as well.
Quindi questo ne abbiamo già parlato. Sto andando in avanti. Quindi, sì, gli areali comunque già ne abbiamo ampiamente parlato. L'altro aspetto è quello che
The other
l'agricoltura di
aspect I'd like
precisione,
to
se
mention is
gestita
precision
a
agriculture.
livello
Precision
tecnico,
agriculture,
con una giusta preparazione,
if
ci può
well
aiutare
managed,
sicuramente a
can
prevenire alcuni
help
aspetti
us
e problematiche.
to prevent some
Nella coltivazione della
problems
carota
and
ancora c'è
issues.
tantissimo da
In
fare.
carrot
Magari
cultivation,
non siamo nella coltivazione della vite da
we
vino
still
dove
have
si
to
sta
make a lot
lavorando
of steps
tantissimo, ma qua
forward
comunque è uno degli
actually,
aspetti che
but
bisognerà attenzionare negli
precision
anni.
agriculture, can
Andando verso
be
le conclusioni,
one of
cosa
the
possiamo dire? Che
solutions that
sicuramente
we
da
might look
oggi,
at.
da
So reaching
ora
my
in avanti,
conclusions, what can we say?
l'approccio sistemico
Well,
nel
we need to
approcciarsi con una
adopt a
preparazione
systemic
tecnica all'uso
approach,
razionale dei
relying
fitofarmaci,
on technical
l'integrazione con
skills. We need to
l'agricoltura di
integrate
precisione
precision
sono alla
agriculture
base di una
with
moderna agricoltura che nei prossimi anni dovrà
PPPS,
appunto
and
accelerare. Per fare questo bisogna anche cambiare l'approccio
we need to
dei
change
tecnici, no?
our approach and the
Probabilmente le nuove
approach of our
generazioni
technicians and
già
of our
quando si
experts.
alzeranno la mattina
It is
sanno che devono accendere il
possible that
computer,
the
devono
new
vedere le
generation
immagini
are already
satellitari, i
prepared
dati meteo,
for these
devono
changes
vedere un
because
po'
they
tutto
know
quello, i
that early in
sensori
the
che
morning they have to check,
cosa ci dicono e poi
the weather
intervenire.
forecast, they
E questo
turn their
qui
computer
ecco,
on
è
and
un
check
passaggio
all the data
culturale
that
e
they've got in their
anche
computers.
generazionale che
So maybe the
bisognerà
future
fare.
generations are already
Come vi
ready, but we
dicevo,
all need to
questo è un po' quello che
change
ci
our
siamo
way of
detti, quindi
working.
le sfide sono
So the
effettivamente
challenges ahead of
queste qui,
us are the
formazione,
challenges that I've
cultura
described.
e
So
apertura alle
training,
innovazioni
culture, and
in un panorama
be
di
open to
cambiamento
innovation
continuo
are
veramente
key
velocissimo. Quello che
factors
oggi
for
stiamo dicendo
us.
domani
It's a
può
changing
essere
world,
smentito
a
in qualsiasi
fast-changing
momento.
world. So
Grazie.
we need to be updated. Thank you so much. The topics you mentioned are very important, and we can't underestimate the topic of digital innovation and artificial intelligence and innovation in general and precision agriculture. I don't know, are we in the 5.0 era yet? I don't know, because the world is fast changing, as you were saying. The topic of water is a key topic. And so the question is, what we mentioned this morning, starting from the seeds and the research on genetics, can be an answer. So can we have seeds that are genetically modified actually and that need less, fewer quantities of water? Well, yes. We started monitoring specific varieties because our guidelines require us to test varieties before producing them. So we've been testing more than 15 carrot varieties for 15 years, and we tested their diseases resistance, the quality of the products, and whether they were resistant to the different weather conditions. We didn't study their resistance to being to the drought conditions, but at least we studied if the varieties could be resistant to powdery mildew, and powdery mildew develops when we've got drought. So carrot breeders should pay attention to these aspects. Of course, there are varieties that are more tolerant and resistant than others. I'll have a question about this that I want to ask at the end to our colleagues. But now first let's give the floor to Mario Schiano Lo Moriello from Isnea. So Mario will be talking about production and consumption in Europe. So Mario, the floor is yours.
Grazie in particolare a Cora Seeds per aver organizzato.
Thank you very much for organizing this wonderful event, which is very important for training. My goal today is to provide some figures. In particular, my presentation has a first part where we're going to see the European context, and a second part where we will focus on Italy in particular. Let's not talk about hectares, please, because we are very aware of that. Yes, of course, of course. According to the National Institution for Statistics in Italy, we cultivate 11,000 hectares of carrots. We will experiment carrots in China, so from 20,000 hectares we will have even a bigger scale in the future. So let's talk about our numbers in Europe. One important conclusion to mention is that Europe, as for carrots, is a closed system. The exchange or trade that we have with other producers are quite limited. Extra EU producers that are in the Mediterranean basin in particular. So let's keep focusing on Europe, because as for carrots, we have sufficient numbers. And so it is important to be independent, especially in terms of seeds. So very quickly, these are the figures from Eurostat in terms of European production. So which are the most important producers? Italy ranks fifth, so it's a good result in Europe. There's Germany, Poland, France and Netherlands before Italy. Over the last 10 years, we've had an average production of 4.7 billion kilos of carrots, so 4.7 tons. And Italy contributes with around 10%.
Se a questa produzione aggiungiamo poi il
If
dato
we
delle
add
importazioni,
the figure
abbiamo che
of
importazioni
imports
che tra
to these figures,
intraeuropee ed extraeuropee ammontano
we
a
can say
circa
that
1,1 milioni di tonnellate,
1.1
avremo così
million
un dato
tons
della
is the
disponibilità di
figure
carote in
in
Europa
terms of
che
trade balance,
all'incirca
and
di
we will obtain the
5,
figures related to availability in the 27 EU countries. As for Italy, it's 5.8 million kilos on average in EU, sorry, for the 27 countries. But the majority of the availability of carrots is in the producing countries. So apart from the Netherlands, we can say there are other important countries, but the Netherlands is certainly one of the key players.
Di tonnellate, dispone ogni anno di circa, in media di circa 1 milione di tonnellate di prodotto, segue
Every
la
year,
Francia.
there's Germany with 1.012 millions of kilos, then France, Poland, 738 millions of kilos, and then the Netherlands, Belgium, and Italy.
Per quanto riguarda le esportazioni,
As for exports in the 27 EU countries,
esportazioni dei 27 paesi dell'Unione Europea
we can say that exports are quite in balance with what we import. 1.1 million tons of imports, and same goes for exports. The main players for European exports are the Netherlands, 40% of volumes of the 27 EU countries, followed by Belgium. And we're going to talk about Belgium when we talk about Italy. We don't import a lot of carrots in Italy, but what we import is from Belgium mainly. Then, so Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, and Italy are the key players in the sector of exports of carrots. Just a minute to focus on trade in the European Union. As for exports, if we think of 2024, the 27 countries of the EU exported 1,159 millions of kilos, that is to say 1.2 million tons, almost. 95% of this quantity is trade between EU countries and only 6% towards extra EU countries. At the bottom of the slide, you can see some other figures related to the UK. UK ranks first as for exports, well, as for imports from EU countries. As for import, in 2024, we can say that the number of tons were 1.2. Over the last 10 years, we've had an increase by 0.7%, and in this case, imports for 90% are from other countries of the EU, and for the remaining 10% are from extra-EU countries. Here you can see some figures at the bottom of the slide. Among the main suppliers, we have Turkey, 17 million euros in 2024, then Egypt, which is new, because it wasn't present in the past on the European market, but 2024, for certain reasons, at European level, Egypt was able to become part of the group with 8.9 million euros. Then Israel, unlike Egypt, before 2024 was more present but in 2024 there was a decrease. And then the UK,
Singolare la presenza al 15° posto,
and
parliamo di 4 milioni di euro di carote importate.
4.1 million euros of carrots imported from South Africa, which is quite peculiar in terms of extra EU countries. As for consumption in Europe, we produce a lot of carrots. We are almost completely independent. What we produce is what we eat. So the average annual consumption over the last few years has been of 4.7 millions of tons in Europe. So the people, the countries that eat the highest number of carrots are Germany, 1/5 of European availability, then Poland, France, 15%, and then Belgium, Italy, Spain, and then the Netherlands, and so on. If we take into consideration the number of inhabitants for each country, we see that there are some peculiar conditions. Belgium, which in the previous slide was ranking 4th, now in this slide ranks first. They rank first. This is because statistics is peculiar. If we take into consideration industry, carrots, statistics are tricky. So Belgium ranks first before other countries in Europe. If we elaborate data very simply, on average, Belgians eat 34 kilos per year. So each citizen eats 34 kilos per year. Here on the slide you can see the figures for the other countries of Europe, especially in the northeast of Europe. Apart from Belgium, we have Poland, 19 kilos, and this figure is increased because of the industry carrots figures. Then we have Ireland, Finland, Lithuania. Italy is 10.5 kilos per year. Sorry, Italy is 6 kilos per person every year, so a little bit below the European average. This number is the supply rate in the 27 EU countries. 100.3% is the average in the EU. So what we produce is eaten in Europe. In certain periods of the year, we need to import products, but it's also true that in other parts of the year, other periods of the year, we export abroad. So we're an open system, but at the same time, we're independent. Import propensity in the 27 EU countries. The average is 23.5%, so on average, European countries import 23%, almost 24% of what they eat. Italy is peculiar. We rank last, but in this case it's positive for Italy, because this means that we are absolutely self-sufficient and we don't need to import carrots to meet our national needs. The same goes for export propensity, so the ability to export carrots. So what's the percentage of Italian production is exported? So Italy ranks higher. 20% of the Italian production is going abroad. In this graph, you can see the trends over the last few years for production, the blue bar, then apparent consumption, the orange bar, and then average consumption of kilos per person in a year. It's the European average in this case. So it was 10.5 kilos. What we can see is that the two bars are almost the same. So we eat what we produce. It's the same quantity, more or less. Very quickly, let's focus on Italy. Here you can see some figures, 11,000 hectares that we mentioned earlier on, of which 1,000 hectares, according to CNAB figures, are from organic cultivation. Even if we have talked about the difficulties that this crop is facing for organic cultivation, but there are some producers that do that, and apparently they have this important mission and they are obtaining good results. Production in Italy, on average, in 2024 was 511 million kilos. In farms, this quantity of carrots is worth around 460 million euros. Imports are quite low, 9 million euros, whereas exports are 99 million euros. So if we make the calculations, we have a very important figure. The trade balance of carrots is 90 million euros, so that's very positive. To be one single product at national level, we can say that this is a very important result. It's not 1 billion euros of exports that apples or table grapes have, but certainly 90 million euros is quite interesting. It's more or less the same figures as tomatoes. Average consumption in Italy is around 6 kilos per person per year. As for Carota Novella di Ispica, as Massimo Pavan said, here we have the numbers for 2023, but Massimo talked about the data from 2024, and so we have seen an increase in this product. And then there's also the Carota dell'Altopiano del Fucino variety, PGI again, which is 4,200 tons certified in 2023, so that's a little bit more than Carota Novella di Ispica. And the calendar is also broader. I would like to add a few things as well. Massimo Pavan was saying something that I can share. Valorizing the PGI brand and PDO brand or label is fundamental, not only for Ispica or for Italy, but for Europe as a whole, because we must be proud of what we have. Each territory has to be proud of what they produce. In Italy, maybe we don't have any certain figures, but consumers that distinguish between PGI products and non-PGI products are not that many. However, abroad, we have this problem even more. So institutions at all levels, regional, local, national, international level, need to promote territories and these products, because obviously products and the territories go hand in hand. It's a winning team. Carota di Ispica benefits from the territory and vice versa. Some figures, again, Italy is important because Italy ranks 5th for the world export of carrots. So the market share is around 6%. And the annual average growth rate was 13% over the last 10 years. 13% every year is quite a lot. Italy is self-sufficient, as we said. We have a very high export propensity level. And so let's move on to another slide. Here you can see a summary of the main figures for Italy. Starting from the left, we have production and import figures. You can see that in orange, we have 472,000 tons of production, adding up production and imports, 98% of which are taken from national production and only 2% from imports. These are the average figures of the last 10 years. Then, these 472,000 tons available in Italy have different destinations, 20% for exports, 5% for the processing industry, and then 72% for consumption on the domestic market, both in terms of restaurants and catering services and canteens. Obviously, carrots are a key product in this field for the reasons that we mentioned earlier, for its healthy properties, especially antioxidants, fibers, vitamins, and so on and so forth. This is another aspect that we should insist on. And then 70% for the retail market, both traditional retail channels and modern distribution channels. These are the main areas in terms of regions on the left and on the right for provinces in Italy, but we've already talked about this earlier. So I would just like to add that there are around 200 hectares in greenhouses, especially in the province of Latina. These are production figures, so surface and production in open air, and on the right we can see the different shares by region and provinces of Italian production over the last year. This is the same slide that we saw with Europe, with the two bars. For the EU, the two bars were almost the same, whereas in Italy, the blue bar is higher than the orange one, and that gap is the quantity we have available for exports. As we said earlier, having territories in Italy that alternate during the year, we're able to be on the market, on the European markets, with our products. So when they're lacking the product, we are ready to intervene. This is the trade balance in Italy, nothing new. The orange bar is what we export and the blue bar is what we import. So the data is clear. Luckily, we export more than what we import. These are the figures for foreign trade. As you can see, there are some peaks. We talked about the reasons why this is the case, phytosanitary products, drought, and obviously we need to fight these challenges because there are not only differences between EU countries and non-EU countries. Not only do Turkish carrots use different active principles, but also In Europe, there are some differences. There are some member states that use different methods, and there are no good or bad countries. If we take apples, maybe the situation is different. If we take into consideration garlic, there are other conditions. But at least in Europe, we should be able to compete fairly and with the same conditions. So European member states should comply with the same rules and with the same techniques. It sounds banal, but at the same time, it's the reality we're facing. So what's the market destinations for Italian carrots? Mainly in Europe. Germany is the main market, of course. More than 1/3 of carrots go to Germany. These are figures related to the average of the last 10 years. Then 10% of carrots goes in extra EU countries. Then the UK is one of the main markets. Germany is the main destination market, and France and Poland are really good importers. They are great consumers of carrots, so they need to import Italian carrots. What we import is imported from Belgium in particular. These are average figures over the last 10 years. Israel, we saw that in 2024 experienced some decreases. Egypt emerged as a key player, but Belgium is stable. Then the Netherlands, Spain, France, their figures change year after year based on certain conditions. Then seasonality of imports and exports in Italy. We export more when there's more production. So columns are bigger in June and May, April. So there is a higher demand from European countries. To conclude, some figures about the purchase of carrots in retail channels. 100% fresh carrots, 4% are fourth-range carrots. 96% are fresh carrots, so as they are. As for distribution, in Italy, we sell 80% of products, packed products, and only 20% loose. Thank you very much for your attention.
Allora ringrazio Mario Schiano Lo Moriello e se Jan De Visser è
Mario.
delle carote, Mario Schiano.
If Jan is considered a carrot man, Mario can be defined as the figure man. I've learned a lot. We should think even more on the difference between loose and packaged products. So we all talk about sustainability. I interviewed the major retailers and they all say that invest in sustainability, but then we do not find loose carrots or loose potatoes in supermarkets. So this topic is quite creates interest in you. Yeah, so I do understand the topic of environmental sustainability that should lead our market, both in Italy and in the European Union. But if we want to value the product, if we want to value our areas and increase consumptions, we need to communicate the product. And to communicate and promote the product, the packaging is fundamental. A simple label isn't enough. So the packaging plays its role. So we've been talking about packaging for 2 years now in Italy. I personally think that Italy should play a more important role as for the packaging. We should work more in the packaging industry. We need to have organic and sustainable packaging, but that can be attractive for our consumers. So packaging that are environmentally friendly, but the fruit and vegetable sector needs to have a good and attractive packaging. Yeah, so a good balance is important. Also, the data and figures about carrots that you've just given us are quite, important. I would like to ask a question to Maurizio Bacchi. Is there a perfect seed? So, given the data, export data, and let's not forget that you export a lot as for your seed production. So Italian seeds or Emilia-Romagna seeds are very important. So is there a perfect seed? I also would like to welcome Mr. Piotr, the distributor of Cora Seed in Poland. I'd like to say hi to you. Of course, if you want to take the floor, please, if you want to come here as well. So if you want to take the floor, if you've got any questions, of course, the floor is yours and you can have a microphone and, speak up. So, Maurizio, is there a perfect seed? Are you working in order to obtain a perfect seed?
Per fortuna anche.
Però diciamo quello che posso dire con un
What I
pizzico di
can
orgoglio
say
la Cora Seed è l'unica azienda
is
italiana
that
che
Cora
ha breeding di
Seed
carote.
is the only Italian company having a carrot breeding program. We export 100% of our varieties abroad in 40 to 50 countries, and more than 50% of our turnover comes from our sales abroad. So I think something important can be done. We have been already working in this direction and working together. We can perform well, so we need to keep on going and keep up with the good work. Earlier on, you were saying that there's actually an advantage of being small and local. Yes, the advantage, the positive point, and we are quite young because we've been in the sector for 18 years and this is nothing. So we need to take prompt and right decisions in the right moment. We need to understand the market and foresee and anticipate the market trends, and this is very important. So if we try to find the right shortcuts to reach what the market needs before the others, well, this is important. So being flexible, flexibility is a key word. I would like to say thank you and let's, congratulate on all our speakers because they were all great. You all stayed within the time given.
Molto bravi, devo dire anche è stato un livello
I have to say that the level of these presentations and speeches was very high because we dealt with the carrot sector from different points of view.
L'appello al Ministero è stato importante, ma
And
veniva sottolineato
we
poco fa da
also
Ismea
made a
anche
call
i
to
territori,
the
perché
Italian
ricordo comunque la
Agricultural
materia sulle,
Ministry and Minister,
sulle
and
certificazioni e
so
anche i fondi di promozione sulle certificazioni
we need
sono per lo
to
più
have
europei e passano per lo più dalle
funding
regioni. E quindi
when
cito la legge
certifications
135 per
are
esempio, che
taken into
appunto
consideration,
valorizza
because
proprio
right
e
now
mette
the
in valore
funding
proprio
is mainly
le
from the
certificazioni.
European
La
Union,
regione
European
Emilia-Romagna è
funding.
fra le regioni italiane quella
And
che ha
Emilia-Romagna
più
region
certificati,
is
ma
one of the
l'Italia, veniva
regions with
detto
the
prima molto
highest
bene,
number
è
of
il paese
certified
europeo
products,
con
but
più prodotti certificati
Italy
e questo
is
naturalmente è un
the
grandissimo
European country with
sarebbe
the
un
highest
grandissimo
number
vantaggio
of
se comunicato
certified products.
adeguatamente, e
And
quindi
this could
noi
be an added
comunicatori siamo
value
pronti
if
ad
adequately
essere chiamati
communicated
a
and
lavorare
promoted
in questa direzione.
among,
Naturalmente il
the
richiamo
consumers.
anche ai territori che veniva fatto da Mario è molto importante. Non so se Mr. Piotr ha qualcosa
Mr.
da
Piotr,
chiedere
is
o da
there
dire,
anything else you would like to
invito
add,
volentieri.
or
Abbiamo
do you have
ancora
any
qualche
questions?
minuto. Quindi
Stand up, Piotr. You want to say something about
you are
Polish
big,
carrot?
so I can
He's a
see
very
you.
big expert in carrot.
Yes.
From Poland.
So, if you want, you can join us and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much to join on this very interesting meeting, you know. I was surprised what the Maurizio take me out, you know, from the public. I'm not prepared, but okay. What I want to add, you know, that for me was very interesting, but we, like the salesman, you know, and of course also we have some little experience, you know, with the carrots production. We looking for the good product. We knows what will be not coming easy, because this is the long distance, you know, like the breeder said, you know, and everybody. It's necessary to have it, you know, this point what the Jan mentioned, you know, on his speech. But finally, we will think that's together with the hard job we can find it, you know, the good variety, you know, for the market, you know. That's what I want to only add it, you know. But all this point is very important, you know.
Assolutamente.
Especially because we know what the European Commission making the shortage of the chemicals, you know, what was important for in the past for the control disease and all the pests, you know, especially. And together with this, what the market needed, you know, this means that everybody want to live longer and they eat the healthy food, you know, and all this control, etc., is very, very important, you know. That's I want to summarize a little bit this, you know. That's what you say it, you know, hear about this.
Thank you so much. Credo che siamo tutti assolutamente d'accordo. E lasciatemi dire anche il tema dell'IVA, perché in realtà non solo c'è il tema
all agree, and we also have to take into consideration the taxes that we have to the value-added tax that we have to pay, and having taxes that are on the same level is important, because in Spain, for example, the taxes and so the value-added tax that producers have to pay is less than the Italian one. So this is another aspect that we should consider. Thank you a lot. Are there any questions from the audience?
Quindi la domanda, e la rifaccio perché forse non tutti l'hanno sentita, visto che è stato detto nel corso del convegno
since
che
we
alcuni
said
terreni
during
sono
this conference
stanchi,
that
se
soils,
si è in grado di
we've got
individuare altre
soil
aree in cui
fatigue,
in futuro
is
si
it
potrà
possible
produrre.
to
Grazie.
find new areas where to
Secondo me, io non
have
sono un
carrot
agronomo, però
production? I'm not an
non è
agronomist,
tanto
but
facile
I think it is not
trovare
so
delle aree
easy to
vocate, perché per
find
scoprire un'area
other
vocata
areas
ci vogliono
where
anni,
carrots
anni
can
di
be
prove
grown.
e anche
We
con i
need
cambiamenti climatici.
years
Quello
of
che era
trials
vocato, che
and
sarebbe vocato
testing
oggi,
in
magari
order to
non
find
sarà
the
vocato domani.
right
Più che
soil. So
altro
maybe
la
we find the
speranza che
right
abbiamo
soil
è
today, but given the
sulla
climate change
famosa
tomorrow,
così,
that soil
per esempio,
isn't
come le chiamano?
adequate
La tea,
anymore.
scusami, sulla tea, mi sbaglio sempre,
As
inverto
for
sempre.
Latea, for
La
example,
tea, cioè questo sistema che si parla che dovranno, diciamo, tramite incroci nascere dei prodotti resistenti
relies
ai
on
nematodi per poter
crosses
continuare
in
a
order
produrre
to
sulle aree dove
have
stiamo producendo.
more resistant varieties. So this is what I think can be the answer for the future. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So difficult to find new areas, but maybe, you know, rely more on genetics.
Ok, allora anche in questo caso replico perché magari non tutti nella sala hanno sentito, quindi la domanda è a Mazzoni se ha usato questo tipo particolare di irrigazione
Have you used any particular type of irrigation system, and which is the, you know, price and benefit ratio?
Ah, ecco, questo è interessante.
Allora, vado in ordine, diciamo che con l'irrigazione a manichetta è molto costosa, quindi qualche sperimentazione, ma al momento
Drip irrigation is quite expensive, so we are still, you know, evaluating whether to rely on it or use it or not. As for the price, I prefer not to mention the cost per hectare, also because it depends on the period, it depends on what you produce, and on the quantity of production. But so I prefer not to give you, you know, any figure, because it's a very important and crucial question. So giving you a figure, it can be dangerous. There are journalists here, so I can't say, you know, I can't say anything about the price. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to answer this question about the price per hectare, but you need to consider many factors, you know.
Aggiungo che la variabilità
and
è
also
dovuta anche
variability.
al clima, alle piogge, all'irrigazione.
Price variability depends on climate change, rains, drought.
Irrigazioni di
In
supporto.
Italy, if
Pensate
you
che in
need to
Sicilia
use
tiriamo
the
l'acqua su da
irrigation
200
system,
metri sottoterra.
well,
Come
in
dico
Sicily,
sempre, quando
the
arriva
water
sopra vi
is
costa quanto
taken
l'acqua
from
minerale,
200
vi
meters
costa per irrigare
underground.
le
So
carote.
once
Perciò,
we've got it
attenzione, mentre un anno
above the
come questo,
ground,
che
the
nel 15
cost
di
that we
gennaio
had,
ha
you
piovuto
know,
sempre in
is
Sicilia,
very high.
abbiamo avuto
Whereas
meno
in
costi
periods in
rispetto all'anno
which we've
scorso,
got
però
heavy
appunto è
rains or
molto
more
variabile
rains,
e
of course
l'incidenza
the
dell'irrigazione
cost
è
for
uno
us to
è
get
uno dei fattori
water
maggiori
was
che
less, and therefore the
scombinano il
price will
prezzo di
change as
costo di
well.
produzione
So
rispetto al
there are
anno
many
regolare.
variable factors to take into consideration. One last question, if you've got one last question. Otherwise, we can stop here, and then all the speakers are here and you can ask questions outside. I thank you all the speakers, I thank you all for your attention, and in particular thank you to Maurizio Bacchi and Cora Seed for organizing this today and this event. Thank you very much.